New dawn in British politics, Margaret, but it seems like it's back to the dark ages when it comes to women in the top jobs. Would you agree with that?
Well, certainly I think it's a sharp contrast with what the people involved said beforehand about what they'd try to do about having women more involved.
Yeah, it's a good point, isn't it? Because David Cameron Kerry back in, I think it was 2008, in the Observer newspaper, said that he would appoint, let me get this right, a third of the jobs in his first government to women. And that there are 4 posts in, what, 29 seat cabinet? I mean, that's a missed opportunity, isn't it?
Absolutely, and interestingly, at the time, he said he wanted to do it because he said it was scandalous, was the words he used, women's underrepresentation in politics. And I'm concerned that it is actually going backwards. I mean, usually we would campaign that it's not going forward fast enough. But I think following what was a pretty much all-male election, all-male leaders debates, nobody could have been left me cold seeing all-male negotiating teams. We now have a cabinet which is only just 10% women, and that's just not good enough.
Is that right? Are we going backwards, Margaret? Because so much for the Blair Babes back in 1997, 101 female MPs who were elected, and yet very, very few have made it to the powerhouse roles, did they?
I think there's a sense in which, I mean, the numbers are going up because the Liberals and the Tory party have had more women of recent times. But people are, as you say, people aren't coming through. And of course, the reason they aren't coming through is because it's so belated to have a greater number of women beginning to come in.
Mm-hmm. Just looking as well at the TV coverage, I mean, there's a lot of suits, isn't there? There's a lot of we talk about the establishment a lot, don't we? Yeah. And there's a lot of males, got men in suits, white, middle-class, middle-aged men in politics. Is that going to alienate, do you think, the electorate? Will that alienate women wanting to get involved in politics, Margaret?
I think it could, and I think that would be a pity, because one of the reasons that they probably haven't got more women in the cabinet in senior roles is simply because of the dearth of people that have been coming through, and that's a consequence of the lack of encouragement and the lack of bringing women forward in the past. I mean, to take the Liberal Party for example, they talked a lot for years and years and years about bringing in more women, but it's never actually happened. They haven't been in the better seats that you can win in and stay there.
There aren't many women at the top, though, are there, in terms of the Labour Party either? We know Harriet Harman's a significant figure. She's not putting herself forward, though, for the Labour leadership contest. Are you disappointed that there are no female candidates, or unlikely to be any female candidates at this stage?
Well, I think it's a sadness in many ways, but I think, again, it's a consequence of there not having been more women coming through and women not having been given that level of experience that makes people say, yes, they're OK. Although, why you have to have experience to be a senior woman when you don't have to be a senior man is quite another matter.
So what do we do about this? How do we change? What are the top tips going forward, do you think, Margaret?
I think women have to be prepared to come forward, and we, the parties, have to do more to support them. The Labour Party's actually got quite a good structure of, you know, working with and supporting women who want to come forward. It's a pity that it's necessary, but it still is necessary, and I'm not sure the other parties have really recognised how much that's the case.
And what would you say, Kerry?
Well, I think there's been a lot of discussion about electoral reform. So one practical thing we can do is all the parties this year are going to discuss a new bill on reforming politics. So why don't they, all together in this brave new politics, seriously have a debate about how they're going to get more women cross-party in the House? What it really takes is political leadership. And if you look in Europe, where there's cabinets with more women in every situation, Spain, Germany, France, the political leaders, men and women, have really put their money where their mouth is. And that's what we'd like to see this year as part of the debates on electoral reform.
Interesting, a lot of emails saying, well, why does it matter? Royal says, I don't think it matters what gender we have in Parliament as long as we sort out all the problems. Is that a fair point, Margaret?
The reason it matters is because the experience of women is different, and if you don't have that voice, then you don't have that experience.
OK, we'll wrap that one up. Just before we go, though, who are you backing, would you say, Margaret, for the Labour leadership?
I genuinely don't know. I want to see who's putting their name. I hope that plenty of people, we've got plenty of talented people, I hope lots of them will put their name forward.
So not David Miliband at this stage?
I'm not backing anybody at this stage because I don't know who's running.
OK, fair point. Thanks very much for joining us, Margaret Beckett there and Ceri Goddard.